Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. First on the docket today, Eliza Fletcher's accused murderers back in court. Charges dismissed against Colby Ryan, that's right, Lori Vallow's son. The Pike County Massacre trial, 6 years in the making. Harmony Montgomery's stepmother, well, her bond's been revoked. What is in the water with these Florida teachers? And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich. Thanks for joining us. Okay, first on the docket, let's talk about scheduling. Tonight is Tuesday. We are going live tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and we will also do our Patreon show immediately following that. As you may recall, last week, those little pesky thing called work got in the way, so we had to cancel. And I was traveling Friday and yesterday, but we are back, and hopefully we'll have some video for you in the next couple of days of my little adventure to Nantucket. Interesting to say the least. Anyway, tonight on the live, we'll be talking about the motions that Lori Hellis has filed, and, well, the judge finally set the matter for a hearing. Hats off to Lori Hellis, no doubt. And we'll be talking about the Pike County Massacre. We've been trying to stream that to you today. We lost our feed. Hopefully we'll get that back. And of course, we'll talk about anything else that you want to talk about on our live show, because this is your opportunity to ask questions of just about anything of me or about cases that we've talked about. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for September 13th, 2022. That's right, the Eliza Fletcher's accused murderer back in court. The Memphis man accused of kidnapping and sexually assaulting and murder of Eliza Fletcher made a court appearance for a misdemeanor theft count just days after being charged in relation to the alleged 2021 rape and kidnapping of another woman. So Cleotha Henderson, who also goes by Cleotha Abston, appeared before Shelby County, Tennessee Judge Louis Montesi around 9 a.m. local time on Monday for a brief hearing regarding the previous misdemeanor theft charge. The hearing was unrelated to the alleged murder of Miss Fletcher, obviously a young woman and teacher who was abducted while running and murdered. It was also not related to the latest aggravated rape and kidnapping charge that are separate from the Fletcher case. He will be represented by Jennifer Case, the public defender who has also been appointed to represent Mr. Henderson in his more serious cases. He'll be back in court on the morning of September 19th. Now, as you may recall, a grand jury indicted Mr. Henderson Thursday of aggravated rape and kidnapping charges in connection to the September 2021 alleged assault of a woman. Now, an indictment that has been released states that on September 21st in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully and intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly sexually penetrate the victim by use of force or coercion while armed with a weapon. Now, Henderson is also being charged with a convicted felon being in possession of a firearm related to that September 2021 charge. Now, Fletcher was allegedly kidnapped by Mr. Henderson at about 4:20 a.m. on September 2nd, and he was driving a GMC Terrain. Police said a nearby surveillance camera captured the same GMC Terrain within the area of the abduction 24 minutes prior to Miss Fletcher being abducted. Henderson was taken into custody by law enforcement officers on September 3rd, but declined to give police any information that would have led to the location of the body of Miss Fletcher. Now, according to the affidavit, Henderson's brother, Mario, told law enforcement officers that Mr. Henderson was seen cleaning the interior of the GMC Terrain with floor cleaner, and Fletcher suffered serious injury and left evidence, for example, blood, in the vehicle that the defendant cleaned, according to the documents. Now, Miss Fletcher's body was found on September 5th at about 5:07 p.m. in the rear of a vacant duplex apartment, which was near the same area where Henderson was allegedly seen cleaning out the GMC terrain. Now, a public information officer for the Memphis Police Department has stated that its criminal investigation unit took a sexual assault report on September 21st of 2021, and the sexual assault kit was submitted to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation on September 23rd, 2021. The official said that the department didn't have probable cause to make any arrest until the DNA hit was received. The spokesperson for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation stated that the Memphis Police Department didn't request an expedited analysis of the sexual assault kit from the September 2021 incident, and added that no suspect information or DNA standard was included in the submission. Now, the sexual assault kit was then placed into the queue of unknown assailant kits, and a forensic scientist with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation began its review of the sexual assault kit on June 24th and finished the initial report on August 29th. After finishing the initial report, the unknown male DNA profile was entered into the FBI's combined DNA index system, which resulted in a positive match of Cleotha Henderson on September 5th, just days after Fletcher died. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation then handed its findings to the Memphis Police Department, and a grand jury indictment was made. Typically, according to the TBI, an expedited request for analysis on a sexual assault kit takes 5 business days to process, depending on the amount of evidence submitted. This includes an analysis of all evidence, a mandatory review process, and entering any established DNA profile or profiles into CODIS. The requesting law enforcement agency is then notified of whether a CODIS match is found, according to the TBI spokesman. The TBI accepts rushed DNA cases when requested by a local investigative agency, such as the one that was performed on the Champion Slides sandals that were found at the scene where Miss Fletcher was abducted on September 2nd. The Memphis Police Department did not respond to a request for people asking why the sexual assault kit in 2021 was not sent for an expedited analysis. Mr. Henderson faces 2 counts of especially aggravated kidnapping, 1 count of aggravated rape, 2 counts of theft, first-degree murder, unlawful carrying or possession of a weapon, identity theft, tampering with evidence, and fraudulent use of a credit card. So, yet another example of limited resources, and maybe that previous case where Mr. Henderson could have possibly been arrested had it moved through the process, Miss Fletcher may still be here today because Mr. Henderson would have been in custody. It all comes down to resources, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want safe streets, or do you want all the other things that the government does? Well, it's called allocation of resources. You can't have it all. Now, obviously, one could maybe make the argument that Ms. Fletcher case was expedited because of her high profile of being the granddaughter of a very successful businessman who maybe is worth $1 billion or $2. A lot of money. Some people could say that. We don't know we don't know who the victim was in the first case, but apparently it wasn't getting top priority. Not really sure why that kind of case wouldn't get top priority. As I've said before, there's rape, murder, violent crime, and then there's everything else. Everything else takes second fiddle to the top priority. That 2021 case, maybe if it had taken top priority, well, Ms. Fletcher may actually still be here today. Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Next on the docket, Colby Ryan has been released and the charges have been dismissed. We brought you this story last week, and it is only fair to let everybody know that the son of Lori Vallow was released from jail last Friday, and charges against him were dismissed without prejudice. Doesn't really apply in criminal cases because charges can always be refiled within the statute of limitation. Mr. Ryan was booked into the Maricopa County Jail in Arizona last Saturday on 2 counts of sexual assault, according to court records, and a woman he had been in a relationship with told police that Mr. Ryan raped her while the couple was watching TV at her house. Now, the court appearance was vacated, and Mr. Ryan was released from custody without having to post a bond. A spokesperson for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office confirmed that the sexual assault charges have been dropped and the case remains open. The case is under review by our office. The dismissal was without prejudice, which allows us to refile the charges, according to the district attorney's office. Now, you may ask, in a case where basically it's alleged that Mr. Ryan was on tape confessing to this alleged crime, that maybe the victim has now recanted and said, "Ooh, I didn't realize he was going to get in so much trouble," and maybe changed her story. Who knows exactly? But for whatever reason, Mr. Ryan is obviously given the presumption of innocence, and the case has been dismissed. Now, a case that has literally taken 6 years. I remember talking about this case when we first started Crime Talk. Yes, it's taken that long to get to trial. We haven't been doing Crime Talk 6 years, but it's taken a while. Anyway, now jurors will finally get to hear the evidence in the Pike County Massacre. We brought you the opening statement, and I think the one thing that could be said about the opening statement by the prosecution would be, yeah, that's right. She used the word a lot. I would suggest her taking a NIDA course where they actually tape you practicing opening statements, and you can see what quirks you may have and things that you may need to work on. And is one of the things that she may want to work on. All right. She's doing her best. So the proceedings began Monday with an opening statement in the case of the co-defendant George Wagner IV, the only case thus far to go to trial. Now, the defendant, his brother Edward Jake Wagner, and their father Billy Wagner III allegedly attacked and killed 8 members of the Roden and Gilly families across 3 trailers and a camper. These alleged murders took place the night of April 21st, 2016, into the early morning hours of April 22nd, according to prosecutors. Now, George III's wife, Angela Wagner, helped plan, according to authorities. Their primary target was Hannah Mae Roden. She's only 19. Well, she had a daughter with Jake, but they broke up and Jake demanded custody even during the pregnancy. Well, the district attorney construed the Wagner family as being controlling of any woman who came into their circle. For example, there was a woman named Tabitha who had a child with George IV, according to the prosecutors. In a private Facebook message, her mother, Tess, warned Hannah Mae never to sign custody papers with the Wagners. She responded, "I won't sign papers ever." Hannah Mae wrote back, "They'll have to kill me first." And allegedly, that's what they did. She was shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber round at the 3122 Union Hill Road address. Her crime was not returning the love of Jake Wagner, according to the prosecutor, and not submitting to the control of the Wagners. The prosecution said that the Wagners targeted several other members of her family and intended to kill any witness. In short, they were going to kill anyone who could, would, or know that they killed Hannah Mae. First and foremost was her father, Christopher Roden. The Wagners feared that the Roden family patriarch would know who did it and either get them arrested or retaliate. He was shot with a .40 caliber round at 4077 Union Hill Road. He sustained 6 rounds to the face, 1 in the chest, and 1 in the stomach. He had defensive wounds. Now, after the killings, the prosecution continued that George Wagner III falsely claimed he had tried to get in touch with his good friend Christopher Rhoden Sr. Christopher Rhoden Jr., who's about 16, would also know who killed Hannah Mae, according to the prosecutors. He was shot 4 times in the head with a .22 caliber round at the 3122 Union Hill Road address. He was a high school freshman and had just received his driver's license. Christopher Jr. usually had friends over, but happened to be grounded on the night of April 21st because he arrived home late the day before. In other words, the massacre allegedly could have been worse. The Wagners intended on killing any bystanders. Hannah Mae's then boyfriend could have also been there. According to the prosecutors, they all agreed those people would have to be killed too, even though they had no issue with any of those other individuals, according to the prosecution. Now, other victims were said to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. For example, Christopher Sr.'s cousin, Gary Rhoden, happened to be at the 4077 Union Hill Road address. The Wagners likely knew he was going to be there that night, according to prosecutors, and the prosecutor said he was killed with a .40 caliber gun, shot 4 times in the face. Senior's brother, Kenneth Rhoden, was an add-on, according to the prosecutors. He was close to Christopher, and he would have known who the killers were, and he knew the Wagners were going to be visiting Christopher Sr. that night. He was shot in the right eye at the 1084 Left Fork Road. Now, the prosecution said that Clarence Frankie Rhoden, who's 20 years old, knew that his sister, Hannah Mae, complained about Jake physically abusing her. He had spoken about this with their mother, Dana Manley Rhoden, the week of the homicide. The prosecutor said he would know it was the Wagners who carried out the killing. Frankie was shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber round at the 4199 Union Hill Road address. The prosecutor said the death of his fiancée, Hannah Hazel Gilley, was collateral damage. She was shot 5 times in the head and face with a .22 caliber at the 4199 Union Hill Road. Except for Christopher Sr. and Gary, all of the victims were shot in their sleep or in bed. All 8 victims did nothing to deserve this, according to the prosecutor. Now, Jake Wagner got sole custody of Hannah Mae's daughter. The prosecutor said that they obtained a 2014 court document ostensibly signed by Hannah Mae that was backdated. This was not a crime of passion, according to the prosecutors. This was not in a fit of rage. This was not in self-defense. These murders happened after a period of 3 months of planning and plotting and purchasing and preparing and executing 8 individuals of a family. Jake and Angela Wagner each separately pled guilty to their respective roles in the killing. This is an interesting case. A lot of dead people, a lot of names to remember, but the gist of it is the one guy who's on trial right now basically says, hey, do not hold me accountable for the sins of my family. Just because I have the same last name doesn't mean that I was involved in any way. And his defense attorney argued mentioned during opening statements that, hey, the government's own witnesses are going to say that he had nothing to do with this. It's going to be interesting. It's going to take a while, and hopefully our feed will get back up. All right, next in the docket, Harmony Montgomery, the stepmother of the missing New Hampshire girl. Harmony Montgomery will stay in jail without bail after failing to show up for her scheduled court hearing. 32-year-old Kayla Montgomery failed to show up for a hearing this month in Manchester. The court hearing was in connection with charges against her for allegedly lying to the government and keeping Harmony's benefit despite the child being missing. The state made bail arguments in the past, and Miss Montgomery was held at the Valley Street Jail for some time. Well, given the circumstances of the case and the history here, the state felt that a warrant was appropriate. Miss Montgomery was arrested Friday in Manchester, and on Tuesday, a judge granted the prosecution's motion to revoke her bail. Miss Montgomery was already out on bail after pleading not guilty to the government fraud charges. Miss Montgomery's lawyer did not object to the bail revocation. Meanwhile, Miss Harmony remains missing. And when they get her, she's going to remain in jail. Next on the docket, is there something in the water down there in Florida that makes these teachers go wild? Yeah, look at this. A teacher of an exclusive private school in Tampa, Florida, is accused of having sexual relations with a student. prompting police to investigate whether there would be more victims. Now, the teacher, 42-year-old Jamie Melton, was arrested Sunday and is facing charges of sexual battery. Now, until her arrest, Miss Melton had been employed at the Carroll Wood Day School in Tampa as a language and literature teacher. The school, which charges annual tuition of $25,000 or more, serves students from the age of 2 through grade 12. Police allege that Miss Melton engaged in sexual relations with a student who was over the age of 12, but younger than 18. Now, the head of the school, Sarah Rubenstein, said in a letter to the parents, the precise age and gender of the student have not been released, and the Hillsborough County Sheriff said in a statement that Miss Melton violated the trust placed in her. I would say she did. The statement by the sheriff continued, this woman was a trusted member of their community who was responsible for the education and well-being of students. Instead, she violated that trust. As a parent, I am disgusted and hope she faces full consequences for her actions. Now, although police believe what happened was an isolated matter, police are investigating whether there may be other victims, according to and the school. The school had no concerns about Miss Melton before the allegations arose. In fact, they said Miss Melton had an unblemished teaching record, and we have not had any concerns about her conduct prior. Miss Melton has been suspended from her position immediately, according to the school. Of course she would be suspended, and, well, I don't get it. What would a 42-year-old woman have any interest in someone under the age of 18? Ew, that's just gross. She would be old enough to be, well, their parents, for goodness sakes. I just don't get it, ladies and gentlemen. And just consider, it's already against the law for her to do anything with under the age of 18. And I guess I can kind of figure out what she was into, so to speak. But eventually, she's going to have a conversation with this kid. Like, really? Mutual interest would a 40-something-year-old have with an 18-year-old? Little to none. Well, guess what? She's probably going to go to prison. She'll definitely have to be registered as a sex offender if she's convicted. We'll give her the presumption of innocence, though. You know the rules. And guess what? I don't think she's going to be teaching around kids anytime soon either. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. And guess where they reside? That's right, Florida. A Florida man told police he shot at them because he thought they were members of a Mexican drug cartel. This is according to police affidavit. He's now facing charges of premeditated murder. Lucas Alves is facing a slew of charges, including attempted first-degree premeditated murder of a law enforcement officer after he allegedly shot at the officer in the chest at a Melbourne, Florida hotel. While being questioned by officers after the shooting, Alves said that he believed the officers were members of the Mexican cartel who showed up outside of his room to steal his belongings. Now, Alves and his roommate were staying at the Suburban Lodge extended stay when hotel management was alerted about a 911 hang-up call. When management knocked on Alves' door, they overheard the man yell, "There are a bunch of armed gunmen, and I'm going to die." Well, police were alerted to the verbal exchange, and when the police arrived, they went to the hotel room to do a welfare check. When officers knocked on Mr. Alves' door, he repeatedly asked for their badge numbers several times. Police said that they complied and gave them the information he requested. Mr. Alves then began a countdown from 3, then fired one shot through the door with his gun, striking an officer in the chest. Needless to say, an exchange of gunfire then took place between officers and Mr. Alves. Some of Alves' rounds reportedly went through the walls of another room where other people were staying. Alves and his roommate were then taken into custody, according to police, and the officer, fortunately, is expected to recover. Alves is, like I said, facing 3 counts of attempted first-degree premeditated murder of a law enforcement officer, 1 count of shooting into an occupied building, and use of a firearm during a felony. Somehow I think they're going to add possession of a weapon by a prohibited person as well. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you all tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, right here, and then we'll do our Patreon show immediately following that. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.